Hey, all, Chris from Science of Speed. Today I'm here with this beautiful 2020 Acura NSX and this really cool casino white finish. We're going to be installing the ScienceofSpeed Low Rise Spoiler today, and I'm going to step you through the process to make sure that your install is done well. So the first step is we're going to use quick detail to make sure we get all of the dust that might be on the car. Surface preparation is really important to make sure that spoiler is going to maintain a strong bond to the deck lid and the quarter panels. So now that we've got the dust off of the car, we want to make sure that we remove any grime or oils that might be on the surface. So I'm using alcohol to wipe the deck lid off. Make sure you're using a clean, soft cloth so you don't scratch the surface. Also important is we don't recommend any paint protection film to be on the deck lid or the quarter panels where the spoiler is going to sit. Ceramic coating is okay though. All right, so the next step is we're gonna prep the bottom of the spoiler and apply the included double stick tape. So you'll notice on all three sections, there's this channel here that we've molded into the part. So the first step, using the same alcohol, is we're gonna prep the surface where the tape sits. Give it a good wipe. You can see that I've already started the tape on the spoiler. Generally, you're gonna wipe it down first. So with that done, it's now time to apply the tape. Especially if you're in a colder climate, I recommend that you heat up the surface a little bit using a heat gun. So we're gonna apply just a little heat. You wanna be careful, obviously, to make sure that you're not destroying the part with too much heat, but bring it up a couple degrees. That will aid in the adhesive on the tape attaching to the part. Of course, when you're working with the parts, these surfaces can be very fragile, so make sure they're on a soft cloth surface. The tape that we include is a special 3M tape meant for outdoor use. It's good in both cold and warm climates. And again, surface preparation to the spoiler itself as well as to the vehicle is really important. Use scissors to make sure that the tape is following the track and not going over that little recess of the track, which will cause the spoiler to not attach to the deck lid properly. Now we're gonna leave the protective film on the part. Don't remove it yet, because we're gonna make sure that the parts are properly positioned and marked so we can then apply it. All right, now that we've got our very high bond tape applied to the channel of the three pieces of the spoiler, making sure that you haven't removed the film from the tape. We're gonna check for positioning on the car. We're gonna use this masking tape to mark the position once we have it in place. All right, so with the center piece in place, you can leave that kind of loosely in place. It's really the side pieces that are gonna set the position of the centerpiece. So let's go ahead and attach it to the car. You can see I have some pieces of tape already set up on my jacket here so I can mark the spoiler once it's in place. Now we're gonna leave the outer piece kind of loosely in place and then set the position of the centerpiece to the outer piece. Let's install the right side one, and then we can get a sense as far as the positioning here of the gap and the layout of the pieces on the quarter panels. All right, so we got the last piece, the right side. I'm gonna loosely set it on the car. I'm not really worrying at this point about the alignment, because ultimately you're gonna see how things start aligning and fitting to the body panels. Now the NSX does have a lot of body lines going on the deck lid, on the quarter panels, so there's really only one position, more or less, that especially the outer pieces will fit into, where they're both in alignment to the edge here, as well as flush to the quarter panel. So now that I have it down, I'm gonna move this outer piece to the point where it is in line with the quarter panel's edge. And I'm gonna start checking out the tip of the spoiler to make sure that it's pretty well flush. Now, if it doesn't look like it's flush, you can rotate it ever so slightly to the point where it is flush. And if that doesn't seem to get this tip flush, it's probably because it's either too far forward or too far back. So you can kind of look at the back here and get a good sense as to where it's sitting. So I'm pretty happy with that. The tip here looks pretty flush, and the edge of the part relative to the edge of the quarter panel is nicely aligned. Now before we mark it, I'm going to now move over to the other pieces, starting with the left-hand side, and do the same thing. All right, I'm really happy with that. Again, the edge of the spoiler is following the edge of the quarter panel, and it's nicely flush with the quarter panel, both in the front here at the tip and also in this rear section. So now that we have the outers placed pretty well, let's check the alignment to the centerpiece. Now the centerpiece, of course, should be centered on the deck lid. And the edges here should be nicely in alignment to the outer piece. The other thing you want to check is the gap here. The gap should be about 6 millimeters even from the rear to the front and the rear to the front on both sides. You can measure that with a caliper, or visually you can also check by checking the alignment to the deck lid relative to the center section and making sure that the outer section is still in alignment to the quarter panel. All right, so now that we have the positioning done, we're now gonna mask up the positioning so we can remove the spoiler, take off the protective film, and actually apply the pieces. Mark out several sections so that you can use them as reference points when you remove and replace the components, making sure to not move the spoiler at all when you're applying the tape. On the end pieces, also mark out the position of the tip. That'll also be a good reference point for when you reapply the part. Apply a few pieces to the rear. Another good reference point. And readjust if you happen to tap the spoiler like I just did. All right, so now I'm going to mark out the rest of the parts, then we'll remove it, remove that film, and get it applied. So now that we have the spoiler marked out with a masking tape, we're going to remove the 3 pieces and get ready for installation. So we're going to start with the center section first. All right, so we've now removed all of the plastic film from the tape. Give everything a good inspection, make sure the tape is still pressed down, and especially if you're in a colder climate, again, warming up the surfaces, including the adhesive tape, is a good idea. All right, so let's start by applying the center section first, using that masking tape for alignment. And lower it into place. Once you're satisfied, with the alignment and go throughout the entire edge and make sure that you're getting good adhesion to the deck lid. So now that we have the 3 pieces installed, we can work on some fine adjustment. There is some adjustability in the deck light height from left to right that we can adjust using the factory stoppers. Ultimately, if it's just in the wrong position, using dental floss, you can cut off the part, and look in our instructions, we provide the part number for the adhesive tape if you need to reposition a part or two. So I'm going to make a minor adjustment to the height of the deck lid on this side to get it a little bit more in line with the part. You'll see under here we have these adjustable stoppers. They screw in to lower the deck lid and they screw out to increase the height. I'm going to add just a little bit of tension on it so we can get that alignment a little more fine-tuned. All right, I'm happy with that. You can see now with it permanently bonded by pressing down there, these pieces aren't gonna come off. This tape is very, very strong and meant for both hot and cold climates. So if you have any more questions, check us out at ScienceofSpeed.com and see the instructions included with the product. Thank you.